Hey guys, Bicebump here, bringing you this 9.1 Advanced Unholy Rotation Guide. This is an update to my previous 9.0 rotation guide. Not much has changed, but I feel like it's good to reiterate everything so that you know what is currently the most up-to-date and correct information. I will be covering the single target rotation, the Cleave rotation, as well as the Mythic Plus rotation today. I won't talk too much about stuff we really don't use and which don't show up in our rotation, like talents that aren't used or abilities which are not worthwhile to press. So those are just ignored because you don't really need to care about them. Anyway, let's just jump straight into it. To start off, on the single target, we have a core rotation of 3 spells: Festering Strike, Scourge Strike, and Death Coil. We use Festering Strike to apply what is called Festering Wounds. This is a debuff on enemies, which sits there for, I don't know, like 30 seconds. Scourge Strike pops these wounds to deal damage and generate some extra runic power. Death Coil is what we use to spend the runic power we generate by spending runes. When it comes to Festering Strike and Scourge Strike, you use Festering Strike when the target is at 3 or less wounds. If you use it at 4 or more, you risk overcapping. So we can have a maximum of 6 wounds on a target. If you use Festering Strike at 4 wounds, you might get a 3 proc, which would go up to 7. That kind of wastes a wound, which is why we use it at 3 or less. Scourge Strike always uses it on targets, in single target, where there is at least 1 wound. When it comes to the number of wounds we want to kind of stay at, that should be roughly 3. So when you go down to 3, use Festering Strike to go up higher again, and then you Scourge Strike back down again until you hit 3 or 2. The reason we stay a bit high is because it's much easier to manage your Apocalypse cooldown if we do so. I'll get back to that later. The main kind of trick here is both, managing your wounds so you don't overcap them and you don't go to 0 and use Scourge Strike when you're at 0. But more importantly, it's about managing your resources. So we have our runes that we use. We always want to have 3 or less ready. If we have 3 or less ready, it means we're making the most use of our rune generation. So if you look at your bar, if you have 4 runes ready, make sure to prioritize pressing Festering Strike or Scourge Strike. Furthermore, Death runic power, we don't want that to go above 100. So if you start going close to 100, we want to use a Death Coil to spend that runic power. Generally, it's very similar in terms of value of overcapping runes versus overcapping runic power, but you can generally prioritize not overcapping runic power, and that's kind of fine there. It's technically like no difference, but that's what I go for. We also have these Sudden Doom procs, which you just spend as soon as possible on Death Coil. That's kind of like the core rotation. There's not much else to it. We have a dot as well called Virulent Plague. This is completely passively applied using Unholy Blight. There's no need to press Outbreak to apply Virulent Plague in pure single target. We'll get it's used in Cleave and AoE, but pure single target, no need to care about it. Alright, that's the core. Let's move on over to the cooldowns. We have Dark Transformation and Unholy Blight. These should always be used together. They have a different cooldown, as you notice. Blight got 45 seconds, Dark Transformation got 1 minute. However, Death Coil reduces the cooldown Dark Transformation. So if you're running Deadliest Coil, you usually get down to like 45-50 seconds. Same with Friends of Monstrosity, not as much cooldown reduction, but still, Dark Transformation is brought down to a level where you always time them together. We also have Apocalypse. This bursts up to 4 wounds. It should always be used at 4 wounds. This is one of the reasons we stay high on wounds. It makes it easier for us to build up to 4 when Apocalypse comes around the corner. Especially if you're running Friends of Monstrosity Legendary. It's quite difficult sometimes because you have a lot of downtime and you might end up situations where you simply don't have the runes to build up your Festering Wounds, right? So just make sure you stay relatively high so you can use Apocalypse easier. Apocalypse should generally also be used with Blight and Dark Transformation. This is true if you're running Army of the Damned and the Convocation of Dead Conduit, and this is something you should really be doing on pure single target. The base cooldown Apocalypse gets brought down to a level where you can then save it or use it together with Blight and Dark Transformation. If you do misalign them, it happens. Certain fights, it can't leverage the CDR. So if there's more than 10 seconds between your Blight and Dark Transformation and Apocalypse, just start using Apocalypse on its own, and that's kind of fine. You don't want to hold the cooldowns more than 10 seconds to align them. Great. We also have the Covenant ability we want to use as a cooldown. Generally, just use it as soon as it comes up. Simple as that. We don't really want to hold it, save it for stuff. Just use it on cooldown on a single target, and that's completely fine. We also have Army of the Dead. It's the biggest cooldown we have, and it's actually crucial that we use it properly. It takes like 5 to 10 seconds for the ghouls to get going. So the general rule of thumb is to use Army and then wait, 5-10 seconds before we use Blight and Dark Transformation. And then we always make sure we use them together, right? First usage, I see lots of people doing this correctly. However, the second time to use Army, that's when you see people kind of mess up the cooldowns. You can often safely save Army for your Blight Transformation cooldown. You don't need to press it as soon as it comes up, right? And when you've saved the appropriate length, pop it, wait 5 to 10 seconds, and then press Blight Dark Transformation and or trinkets and all that. It's crucial, right? You don't want to press Blight and an Army. You're going to lose a ton of buff overlap. Right, so that's the single target rotation for you, right? It's about the core bit, not wasting resources, and then making sure you align your cooldowns properly. We also have one thing, Soul Reaper as well is essential to play a good single target rotation. It's our execute. We use it, and if the target is below 35% health after 5 seconds, it blows up and it's a huge hit. You use this a couple of seconds before the boss hit the 35% health. Depending on which boss it is, this can happen at like 37% health, 36, something like that. But if you really want to game it, you want to use it a couple of percent before 35, so it gets to 35 once you in that 5 seconds. As soon as you're in the execute window, you want to save a GCD for Soul Reaper and you want to save a rune. So, Soul Reaper is coming off cooldown. You could press Festering Strike, but that would kind of go into GCD, which would overlap with Soul Reaper. Then you don't want to press anything. Just wait for Soul Reaper, 0.5 seconds, 1 second, something along those lines, and use Soul Reaper as soon as it comes up. This is a major point of min-maxing, which can net you a lot of DPS. Just make sure that you use your Soul Reaper efficiently and properly. For the opener, we start off with Army as we run into the boss, follow through with double Festering Strike, move into Unholy Blight with your potion and after your trinket, Dark Transformation, Apocalypse, and then your Covenant ability. If you're running Necrolord with the Eminar Soulbound, you use your Covenant ability before Apocalypse, and generally you can kind of use your Covenant ability before Apocalypse as well as you fancy. It really doesn't matter too much. Let's talk about how we deal with adds, or some extra targets come in for a short amount of time. So first thing we do is that we actually do dot them up. We use Outbreak to apply Virulent Plague. Obviously, this is not necessary if you can use Blight instead, but generally if you don't have Blight, we do want to use Outbreak to apply the dot. We then want to leverage Deafening K to do Scourge Strike cleaving. So when you pop down your Deafening K and you stand in it, your Scourge Strike cleaves up to 5 targets. So what generally happens is that at spawns, you will apply your dot either with Outbreak or Unholy Blight. You will pop down your Deafening K and then start pressing Scourge Strike to cleave. Furthermore, if there are 3 or more targets overall, you will want to use Epidemic instead of Death Call to spend your runic power. If we walk that through again, so at spawn, you press Outbreak, you press Deafening K, and then you press Scourge Strike and Epidemic to cleave. It's sometimes a good idea to save your Blight and Dark Transformation combo for the adds. Obviously, you don't want to do this too much if it's just padding, but if it kind of aligns, it's a good idea to maybe hold it for a couple seconds. This is a good example is Fate Scribe, where you can use a Blight Dark Transformation combo for almost every set of adds. In that case, just use Blight Dark Transformation, that will apply the dots, and then you go into Deafening K and then Scourge Strike Cleave. Deafening K is well far to use even at 2 targets. So if you're fighting a 2 target boss, like the 9, just pop down Deafening K and then just use Scourge Strike Cleave. Don't need to care about the runes of the target here. It's fine to use naked Scourge Strikes as long as they are cleaving. Great, now let's move into Mythic Plus, and this gets a bit more tricky. So the Mythic Plus rotation has multiple steps, and it's kind of a long setup for Death Knights. So the first step is using your cooldowns, and then using a couple of Festering Strikes to both get the damage going and build some runing power. Second bit, spend all that generated runing power with Epidemic. Final bit, pop down Death and Decay and do Scourge Strike Cleave. In reality, this would look something like pop Unholy Blight, do a double Festering Strike, go into Apocalypse, Dark Transformation, Epidemic Spam, Death and Decay, and Scourge Strike Cleave. When you're in a Death and Decay, you always want to use Epidemic as well to avoid overcapping runing power. Now, this general rotation would kind of work very well for the majority of packs, but sometimes the pack just dies extremely quickly. What you want to do then is pop down your Death and Decay much earlier. So don't worry about using the Festering Strikes, just don't care about them. Pop down Death and Decay so you can leverage your full Death and Decay window with the Scourge Strike Cleave. Another good point, so Apocalypse, do use that in AoE. It's kind of free damage, generates quite a lot of runing power for the GCD, and just, holding on to it will just lose your damage overall. Army of Dead, try and use it on cooldown in Mythic Plus. Like the cooldown, even though it's an AoE pack, it adds like 60k, 70k. It's just free damage. Holding on to it too much, it's just gonna drop your damage overall quite significantly. So use it on cooldown. You will have it up for bosses. So just leverage it. That's all I'm saying. When it comes to your Covenant abilities in Mythic Plus, use on cooldown. They're all AoE abilities, which works quite well on Mythic Plus packs. One comment about those though. So your Covenant abilities usually come in after Unholy Blight in your opener on the Mythic Plus pack. When it comes to Swarming Mist, you want to use that after your Festering Strikes, and then after you pop it, you just want to spam Epidemic. It gives you so much runing power that you can get out like a ton more extra Epidemics, and that's why one big reason why Vento is such good in Mythic Plus. Alright, so that was everything I have for you guys today. Do leave a comment down below if you have any questions or you have anything to say about this video. You can always find me on the Acros Discord. Do feel free to PM me, ask me any questions you want. Do consider subscribing, it helps a ton, and it also helps you to get more content into your hands. Also, you can also find me on Twitch, where I stream lots of Mythic Plus and raids. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more content. Thank you.